Welcome to episode 79 of the Valley Sports Talk podcast. We are back with another weekly episode as usual. Back with Brandon. Brandon, how are you? How you doing?
I'm excellent. I'm
That's
excellent.
great.
Real football really gets started tonight, I guess. We had the Hall of Fame game last night, but preseason starts tonight, week one.
Yes, you're right. I don't know who plays tonight. I know the Falcons play tomorrow. They play the Dolphins.
Minnesota, Seattle,
Okay.
Houston, Patriots.
All
Very
right.
exciting.
We
I
do.
won't
Yeah,
watch.
that means we're 4 weeks away from the start of football season,
Yeah, officially. Can't
officially.
wait.
Um, but yeah. Uh There was also a pretty big trade in the NHL involving my favorite team. Erik Karlsson is now a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So we are gonna go through that, give our analysis, maybe grade it. It's been almost a week now since we post on Fridays. Since you guys are seeing, since it's went through, I think it was last Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a Saturday.
But anyways, he had his media availability yesterday. So we'll talk about that, talk about maybe how the Penguins look this year in the East and such. And then I think we're gonna jump into as football starting, we're gonna jump into some NFC standing predictions. I don't know if I probably won't give my records, but I'm probably gonna give like 1 through 4 and who I think make playoffs. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Records is tough because
and I don't wanna contradict like on our like if I go off records, I'm gonna have to keep track and not contradict on based off our prediction videos. You know what I
that's
mean?
what I'm saying. That's a little too tough.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyways, yeah.
But yeah,
Erik Karlsson is a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, I am thrilled, but I know well, not that you're not a fan of the trade, but you are a like mutual hockey fan in this trade. Just in case you have been living under a rock, I'll give you the full trade details. Pittsburgh got Erik Karlsson, San Jose's 2026 third round pick, Dylan Hamiluk, and Rem Pitlick. The Habs got Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, Nathan Legare, sorry, and Pittsburgh's 2025 second round pick. And San Jose received Pittsburgh's 2024 first round pick, top 10 protected, Mikhail Granlund, Mike Hoffman, and Jan Ruda. San Jose retained 13% of Karlsson's contract, was about 1.5, and Pittsburgh retained 25% of Petrie's contract.
yeah, I in this case I think it's a win-win-win. You don't see many of those in the NHL, but I mean, in that's just from me. I think San Jose, not only do they get draft picks, but they're also trying to lose, right? They don't have a very good team, and Carlson's a guy who, I mean, he put up 100 points last year. He's going to win you some hockey games. Um, so by default, just by losing Carlson, you'll lose a couple more games, get better odds for that number one overall pick, and help get your franchise back in the right direction. So I think it's good for San Jose that way. Same sort of thing for Montreal. They get draft capital. Sure, they take on some contracts, but when you're that bad, you have the cap space to do it. And then obviously for Pittsburgh, you've got the big fish. You also got some draft capital back, which makes the trade look a lot better in that sense. Um, the retention you're taking on Petrie versus the retention you're getting from San Jose on Carlson, it basically works out to a full Carlson contract, which I mean is okay, but I think in 3 years, Dubas is going to have a heck of a fun time trying to sort these contracts out. But again, all in all, Pittsburgh had definitely got better, I guess, last Saturday than they were last Friday, which is the ultimate goal. The only reason Noah was saying I'm not over the moon about it is it's not even Dubas's fault. He made the best trade he could. Carlson was the best player on the market, but like obviously, if you're Pittsburgh, you're trying to win a Stanley Cup, and I think this does throw them over the Islanders guaranteed.
They were over the Islanders before this.
I know. I remember when we were talking about it, you were like, you could make a case for the Islanders if you really wanted to, but I think this 100% puts them over the Islanders, and I think now you can. I think they're pretty even with the Rangers, if not ahead of the Rangers.
I
So
I
I
agree.
still
Yeah.
think there's two teams in the Metro better than them. So I think Dubas still has a little bit of work, but all in all, every team I think went in the direction they wanted to through this trade.
Yeah, I agree with everything you mentioned. Obviously, being a Pittsburgh fan, I'm over the moon about it. You know, it's not very often that you're able to land a Norris Trophy winner from the past, or from last year. He is 33. A lot of people are like, oh, they're Dubas's new core four is above the age of 33, but if you look at it, Carlson's the most making the most money out of everyone at 10 mil. Letang, Malkin, and Crosby are all on pretty team friendly contracts, AAV wise. If you want to talk about years, you can talk about that. Um, and honestly, the one thing that I think Dubas did the good job is he got rid of all three bad contracts that Ron Hextall gave out without having to eat them up and only having to give up one first round pick. And even if for some reason Pittsburgh sucks this year, it's top 10 protected. You still have it. I don't think it will be. I think it will go to San Jose. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be a top 10 worst team in the league this year.
No
But
shot.
there was like Dubas was able to get rid of Mikhail Granlund, who was a terrible trade by Hexatol last year's deadline. Jan Ruda had 2 years left. And Petrie was like 6.2. Like, sure, we're still paying him like I think just over 2 mil. I think him and Karlsson sort of even out, but like to Dubas was able to gain 3 mil in cap space from doing this trade while also taking on Karlsson's huge capture. So I think that's a massive win. Obviously, we had to get rid of a first round pick, like I just said, it's top 10 protected. We gained a third, had to give it a second, but we already had a second next year from another team. So I mean, you're just basically getting rid of a second to get rid of a second. Um, Obviously, we lost Casey DeSmith, who was a good backup, but we'd signed Alex Nedeljkovic this year. I know he was pretty terrible in Detroit this year, but he was playing like 1A, 1B minutes, where I think this year he'll be 100% the backup behind Tristan Jarry. And you got to remember, he was great 2 years ago in Carolina. Um, but there's only four people in NHL history that have more Norris trophies than Erik Karlsson. So whenever you are bringing in a guy that has won three Norris trophies, and put up 100 points last year, I don't think you can look at this trade and look at it being a loss in any way.
No, anyone that sees this trade as a loss would
And
be
like you
crazy.
said,
But yeah,
going back, like if you go through the East again and name me off the teams that I think Pittsburgh's better than, I think my mind might be like changed for a couple of them, if you know what I mean.
100%. I know when we did this last time, when I did that for you quick, we had Pittsburgh sort of in the same position they were last year, being like a fringe last wild card team. But I think you can definitely make a case um for a playoff spot. I personally think they're the third best team in the Metro now, which would guarantee themselves a playoff spot, having top three in each division making it. Um if the Rangers slip in there, um, in my mind, they're definitely the fourth best in the Metro. So I think in the East, we can both agree that like Toronto, Tampa are locks in the Atlantic. Um, other than that, it's kind of free reign. And where does Pittsburgh slide in? I think you can say Pittsburgh's better than Boston. You could definitely make the argument Pittsburgh's better than Florida. And then you got bubble teams that haven't been here in a while. You got Detroit, you got the Sabres. You could possibly have Ottawa in there, and I think you can you can make the case for Pittsburgh in every one of those scenarios. So
Totally.
I think they're definitely a playoff team,
Yeah,
which is where they want to be.
I think it'll come up to, the play of Tristan Jarry. Can he stay healthy for a full
That's
season?
huge.
I think that's the biggest part of if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs and potentially has a chance to go on a deep playoff run, which I mean, sure, Crosby just turned 36 2 days ago, but was nothing stopping him last year, putting up 92 points in 80. I think he played a full 82 last year for the first time in a while. If he can even just stay at that rate, which I think he easily probably can, I think Pittsburgh does have a chance to one make the playoffs and possibly make some noise. They
Yeah,
have
for
the
sure.
they
Like
have they have the they have the experience. They have the player, and there's one they now have 3.5 mil in cap space. I think one. I don't know if Dubas. Obviously in his press conference he said doesn't want to make any promises, but I know Elliot Friedman mentioned that Pittsburgh might also look at a player like Thomas Tatar. who's still on the free agent market somehow.
Very good depth piece right there.
With and Jake Gensel's out for Duba said the first 2 weeks, but who knows how long he's out for. But you know what? It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
East
for
is
sure. And
definitely missing.
like you said, I do think Tristan Jarry is the most important piece. We kind of forget that Tristan Jarry is kind of the reason they didn't make playoffs this year. Like he had that
They were 1 point out.
stinker
And
against Chicago,
they were
and they
one
had a
point
stinker
out.
against Chicago at the end of the year. Um, so yeah, I think Tristan Jarry is a big piece, and we also forget like they're 1 point out, and they had a ton of injuries last year. So they're coming in healthy, except for Jake Gensel, who it's the first 2 weeks, not that big of a deal. So yeah, it's Tristan Jarry. Kind of all he's got to do is play average goaltending because he was below average and they're 1 point out. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if he's an average goaltender this year, they definitely make
He stays
playoffs.
healthy. Yeah, I definitely think that like whenever he was healthy 2 years ago when he played like a 60 game season, he was a top 10 goalie in the league. So I think if he can even be a ghost of that, like just a little bit worse, be like you said, an average goalie, I see Pittsburgh returning to the playoffs.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Me too.
moving on to the NFL, as you mentioned, the what's it called? Like English Noah. Preseason starts tonight. Which
Oh
means
boy.
that we're 4 weeks away. I believe September 8th is the first game of the year.
I think it's September. I'll check right now. I
10th,
think
8th.
it's a little bit later than that. I think it's the 10th. Oh, yeah, we're both wrong. It's the 7th. The Sunday's the
Oh.
10th, so I was kind of there.
Yeah, so you were right for the games. But yeah,
Noah's struggling here.
I am struggling heavily. Sorry, it must be.
Do you want me to carry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna start off in the NFC East. Obviously we had the Super Bowl team from the NFC in this division. We have the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Commanders. I think we're going to work our way from bottom up. I have the Commanders finishing last. You got a rookie quarterback. I think he's going to start. Um, I mean, that's just not going to bode well for most teams. Not a lot of teams make playoffs with a rookie quarterback. Their defense is all right. It's been hurt the last couple of years. And I mean, Washington didn't really do much different from last year, so I think it's going to be another rough season in Washington.
Yeah, I have them finishing last too. I am kind of excited to see what Brian Robinson can do. I think he's going to be the starting running back out of this backfield with Antonio Gibson sort of getting the third down minutes. Obviously, last year he didn't have a full rookie season as he did get shot, which usually would hold somebody out for good reason. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can bring. Obviously, you know what Terry got. You know what you have in Terry. See if Sam Howell can sort of be their quarterback for the future. But yeah, I mean this is a very competitive division. And unfortunately, they're just the team that's going to be fourth.
Yeah, in third for me, I have the Giants. I think they took a big step last year. I don't know if they can do it 2 years in a row. Um, Obviously Saquon's the main part. They got Darren Waller, which I think is an underrated addition. In just for me is am I going to trust Danny Dimes to win you 9 games? And for me, it's no. So I don't think this is a playoff team. I think they're going to drop a bit, and they're in third for me.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put the also the Giants in third. I wanted to be different, but no, there's no way. Yeah, like you said, I don't know how much I trust Danny Dimes. You know, he just got paid. He did have a good year last year. He brought them to the playoffs, which is a step in the right direction for him. But before last season, people were debating if he was even the guy going forward, if he could do this, which I believe he did prove that last year he can. But now that he got paid, not that I'm thinking he's just gonna completely turn into a useless quarterback. They're also their receiver room is kind of questionable. They don't really have a go-to guy there. Obviously, you know you're getting with Saquon. Their defense is above average, but I believe like the two teams above are way better than them.
Yeah, and pains me to do this, but at two, I have the Eagles. I think there's just a little.
I hate
I
you.
do think. Are you copying me? Okay, I think they're going to be the first wild card team. because I think they will have a really good record just as
How many
last
teams
year.
make the playoffs again? Is it 4-3?
4-3. Yeah.
4-3. Four
Yeah, I
division
think they'll
seeded
be
and three wild
so
cards.
I think they'll be the 5 seed. They got a lot harder of a schedule. I saw a stat, no teams repeated winning this division in the past like 20 some years. Um, and I mean it again, great roster. I just think Dallas with some of the additions and getting back healthy, I think Dallas can take this division.
Yeah, I basically picked Dallas just on the fact that the Eagles have the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. Not that I don't think they're not going to be a playoff team, like you said. I think they will still finish, but just the fact that they do have the hardest schedule, I think they'll drop one or two more games than they relatively would if they didn't have the hardest schedule. So that's the main reason why I have Dallas finishing ahead. And it all comes down to if Dak can not throw as many picks as usual. He's got receivers. He's got a good O line. He's got a good defense. He's got Tony Pollard. It all comes down to whether Dak can lead this team to a playoff berth.
They really are the Maple Leafs of the NFL. This team is
Yeah.
stacked. It never happens. Moving on to the NFC West. Maybe you should give me your force and you can do a little bit of talking.
The NFC West.
Yeah,
My four is gonna be the Cardinals. I don't think yours is gonna be any different. Unless it is
no,
for some reason.
no. I do
Um,
think the Cardinals
I
on
don't think
like
they're gonna be
betting
good
it.
at all. I think they're gonna be like a
No.
3 to 4 win team. Like they're battling for the first pick. I don't think they're a very good team at all. Especially with Kyler Murray coming back from ACL. I know he's your fantasy quarterback and you don't really want to hear that, but I don't I don't really trust Kyler Murray in the first place. And now he's coming back from a ACL. Yeah, he does have Hollywood Brown. I think James Conner's still their running back. They have a young defense, Buda Baker's there. But other than that, there's not very many bright spots on this team. And I think they're possibly gonna be tanking for the first overall pick, and Kyler Murray might be out the door if they get the first overall pick.
Yeah, I think they will be last as well. I don't think they will be as bad as people make them out to be. It sounds like Kyler isn't going to be out as long as people think, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. Um, so that's obviously huge. And if so, if he's back, they got a good offense. Like you said, they still got Hollywood Brown, they still got James Conner. Um, so there's still some good pieces there, and obviously, yeah, I don't really Kyler Murray's arm kind of freaks me out, and then his running game's the only thing that keeps me sane. But like you said, the ACL is kind of scary. Might not want to run as much, so I think because of that they'll come last as well. But I don't think they'll be fighting for that first overall pick. Three, who you got?
Three, I'm gonna go with the Seahawks. It's again, this is a really competitive division. I think the Rams last year, I think if they have a healthy Stafford, they'll be better than the Seahawks team. Um, I think Geno Smith might have had a horseshoe up his ass last year. I don't know if he's as good as he was last year. Banking on how good he was. He does have receivers and he has a good backfield with Kenneth Walker and the rookies Zach Charbonnet. I think they'll split carries, which does not do well for Kenneth Walker's fantasy value, but I mean they took him high and they told him they're going to use him. It's just a defense I'm scared of. You have Jamal Adams, right? Yeah.
What are you
Um
talking about?
the safety, Jamal Adams. You have him,
They
you
don't
have
have
Wonder Diggs,
anybody.
you have that rookie Witherspoon who was the last signed draft pick in the whole draft. Across from Tariq Woolen. So you have pieces on the defense, but I'm just banking on a healthy Matthew Stafford season to put the Rams ahead of them is basically what I'm doing.
And at my three, I have the Rams. Our first disagreement here. I do like the Rams this year. Um, like you said, getting healthy will be huge for them. But like you said, their defense isn't that great, and I feel like to win games, they're gonna have to be in shootouts. And do I trust Matt Stafford to win shootouts every week? Not really, because we saw it in Detroit. Although he's got a better team here, Detroit he had to win shootouts, and he didn't win many of them. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a disappointing year for the LA Rams, which means at two I have Seattle. I think I am in on Geno Smith a little bit more than a lot of other people, just because he's not. super exciting. He's just kind of consistent, and with the weapons you have, that's all you really have to be. I'm trying to decide. I am going to give the Seahawks a playoff spot. Um, I don't know if you're giving the Rams.
I'm giving the
Did you
Rams the
say
seventh seed.
so they make it? Okay, so we both think a wild card team will come out of this division. Um, yeah, I just think I like Geno Smith. They got great weapons. They drafted another wide receiver. I can't think of his name right now.
Jackson Smith and
Um,
Jigba.
Jack and Smith and Jigba. And I like the team. I like the offense. The defense is better than the Rams, and that's why I'm sticking with Seattle.
Yeah, very fair. I think you could put either of these teams ahead of each other, and nobody would really be too against it. At two, I have the Rams. I have them the seventh seed, and then one, I have the 49ers. I just think that their 49ers are one of the best all-rounded teams in the NFL. They got an amazing defense, amazing offense, great weapons, great O-line. It's just whether Brock Purdy can do what his magic again last year.
Yeah, I know, and I know last episode I said I didn't have Deebo Samuel in my top 12 wide receivers because I didn't want to put my trust into Brock Purdy like that, but
Purdy time.
I know I'm still gonna have them at one just because Brock Purdy doesn't have to be anything
Very
special for them to win games. With the roster they have, the defense they have, he doesn't have to be that special to win double digit games with this roster. So
Yep,
I'm gonna
totally
put them
agree.
at one. Next we have probably this. Well, I guess no. I'll save the most controversial one to last. We'll go to the NFC North.
This is more controversial than
Um,
NFC South, fella.
you
Between
think
me
so?
and
Okay, let's
you.
go to the South then. We're going to the South.
I think the
At four.
at five.
Who do you got?
I have the
Yeah, at five.
Panthers. I have the Panthers.
I have the Panthers.
Other than Bryce Young, I don't know if they got better in any really spot. They have Adam Thielen as their number one receiver, and he's 32. You know, he's not what he was 3, 4 years ago. They do have Brian Burns, who's a great edge rusher. They have a good O line, but it's basically they're obviously they're rebuilding. I think Thielen was sort of just brought in as a guy that can give Bryce Young that target. I don't think they're really expecting much. I don't even know who their starting running back is. I know it's not McCaffrey. Did they? Oh, Miles Sanders. Never mind. That was stupid of
Yeah.
me. But anyways, I have the Panthers at four. They're just in a rebuilding stage, and they're starting to take their steps. It'll be interesting to see how Bryce Young does.
Yeah, I mean Bryce Young's the one good spot, obviously. But other than that, yeah, I have them at five. I don't really have anything to add. You kind of summed it up great. At three, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hey, me too.
Do I trust Sam Darnold or
No,
Kyle Trask, whichever
no, it's
one
no, it's
starts?
Baker Mayfield.
Sorry. I
You're
know.
thinking of the
Baker,
49ers. Sam Darnold's on the 49ers.
I was thinking of the Panthers from last year.
Sure.
Um, do I trust Baker or Kyle
Hell no.
Trask? I don't know who's starting. Doesn't really matter. Um, this offense definitely got worse. I mean, more than just losing Tom Brady, they obviously lost Leonard Fournette. Um, Mike Evans is getting up there in age. So I mean their defense is still pretty good, but offense, I don't think they're going to be scoring many points.
Yeah, I mean they made the playoffs with a net with an under 500 record last year just because this division was so bad. With Tom Brady as your quarterback. So you take basically the exact same team, like you said, lose Fournette, who I don't think is a big loss, basically based on running back being a very replaceable decision. But you replace Tom Brady with Baker Mayfield, and that's not really a recipe for success. And I think the two teams that we're going to put above got better this offseason. So that's basically my perspective of putting Buccaneers under these two teams is just the other teams got better and they got worse.
At two, I didn't have this team at two, like less than a week ago. Then I watched quarterback, the NFL series. I'm like 5 episodes in, and it's totally changed me. I got the New Orleans Saints finishing at two. Um,
Buddy,
I have
I'm a
the
Panther. I'm a Falcons fan. I'm loving this.
I know. So I was watching.
What did the quarterback have to do with it?
I just totally forgot about their season. They should have won week one.
Who's this?
They kind of
Saints?
The Falcons.
Oh, the Falcons. Yeah, the Falcons were 3-3 last year with Mariota.
The Falcons were 3-3, and if you watch quarterback, they could have
They should have
easily
won
been
their first
five
two
and
games.
one.
I remember them. I watched quarterback too
And they were one game out of a playoff spot. This team should have been a playoff team last year. Um,
with Mariota.
I think if Mariota played the full season last year, I wouldn't have this team winning the division. But the fact that Ritter did get some time last year, um, will help a lot in his development for this year. Um, I think coming in cold would hurt a little bit, but like I said, he just got that experience. So I think they might get off to a little bit of a slow start, but then again, you could be 8-9 and win this division. So I think the Falcons will take it. The Saints, missing 3 games is going to be huge. It sounds like they're going to sign Kareem Hunt.
He also,
Um,
I don't know. I think he might go to the Colts because they offered him more money.
yeah, fair enough. I mean, I it sounds like even if they don't get Kareem Hunt, they're going to get somebody to fill in that role. I don't know. Am I going to trust Derek Carr? I don't know. I'll say they go second. I think only one team in this division makes playoffs, and it's the winner. I'm going to have it be the Falcons.
Okay, so I had the Falcons at 2, but since you're still in on the Falcons, I'm going in on my own team. I have the Falcons at 1 now. Split decision. I'll join you. I do really. Like since the Super Bowl team and having Matt Ryan and Julio, this is the most excited I've been to watch Falcons games this year. I just think that adding Bijan, I wasn't the biggest fan, but watching him in training camp, he looks friggin' unguardable. So I'm really excited to see how good he's gonna be. Another year,
Side
Drake.
note, why do they have Bijan at 3 in the depth chart? It makes no
I couldn't
sense.
tell you. I think
That's
uh,
obviously not true.
it's not true. He's obviously the number one. I'd probably put Algier at the 2 and Cordell at the 3, but I think Cordell is gonna be a receiver 90% of the time this year. They're gonna run some funky sets. You still got Kyle Pitts, who was a top 4 pick. Drake London was number 8 last year. You got a good old line, which is something the Atlanta Falcons have not had in a while. You got Chris Lidstrom, you got McGarry, you got Jake Matthews, you got a rookie in the second round this year. You added Calais Campbell on D, which I know he's 36, but he's still gonna bring that veteran leadership. He's arguably a potential Hall of Fame player. Some people may have him in, some people won't. Um, you got AJ Terrell. You got Jesse Bates. I didn't even talk about him. He's a top five
Yep.
safety in the league. You brought him in. You did bring in Jeff Okuda. He did get hurt in training camps. So that he's probably going to go on IR, miss the first 4 games. But I mean, he was a second overall pick 3 years ago. If he even can be half of us that, then he's still young. He can still grow. It's just I'm very excited to watch Falcons games this year, which I can't say in the past three years I've been excited to watch Falcons games. Like I've been watching them and just watching them blow leads. Like I don't think they're going to be the team that blows leads this year.
No, me neither, but I think it's going to be very stressful for you watching these games
100%.
because
Totally. It always
there's going
is.
to be a lot of mistakes. Like I did say, Desmond Ritter got some experience, but he didn't get much. There's going to be a lot of mistakes there. Um, a lot of plays are going to make you want to pull your hair out, but ultimately you
It
just got
can't
to
be any
keep in your
worse than
head.
what they were the last 3 years.
No, exactly. And what you got to keep in your head is just win half your games. If you
Win
win
them.
half your games, you're
Win
in
them.
the playoffs.
Win
So
them. Win them. Win them.
yeah. Last we got the NFC North. I think the only place we might agree on. Well,
It's
we
4.
both have 2 teams. We both have two teams in the North making playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, at 4, I have the Chicago Bears.
I have 4 out of the
You got
Green.
the
No, just
Chicago
kidding. I have the
Bears.
Chicago Bears. I
I
do.
think
I do think the Bears team is going to be exciting to watch this year, though.
me too. I think it's a big prove it year for Justin Fields.
100%. Totally.
He's finally got weapons on the in wide receiver. So if he's going to turn into something other than just a rush threat, this is the year it's going to happen. Obviously, bring in DJ Moore. Um, they lost Montgomery, but Herbert's good in his own, and they got
Dante Foreman.
Foreman. Yeah, who's good on his own. So this offense is really good. They just signed Cole Kmet to a pretty big deal.
Yes, I think.
It's kind of can this defense step up and can Justin Fields turn into a thrower is my only
Yeah,
question.
if Justin Fields can turn to a thrower, we already know what he can do with his legs. Him and himself is exciting to watch. So I think if he can turn to a thrower, this Bears team would be very nice to watch. It just the defense is not very good.
Okay. At 3, who do you got?
I have your Green Bay Packers,
Yeah, fair enough.
unfortunately. as much as it pains me to bring pain to you, I don't have them making the playoffs this year.
I respect it. I
I still
respect it.
think they have a good team. I'm excited to see what Christian Watson can do. You still have Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Jordan Love finally going to get his chance. You still have Jair. You still have Kenny Clark. You still have good players. But I just think the two teams above them, one team got better than them, and one team was already better than them and is going to stay better than them. And I don't think that it's going to be a rebuild year. I think it's going to be a retool year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even I promise when I say this, I'm not being biased. This is my full belief from a just a this is my belief, and
I'm going
it
to call
has
you
nothing to do
biased
with
no
being
matter
a
what.
Green Bay
So
fan. What's that?
I'm going to call you biased no matter what.
That's fair enough. I have the Minnesota Vikings.
I know you have
I
them.
have the
A three?
Yeah, I got the Minnesota Vikings
Oh
at 3.
no, okay, that's biased. No,
No, it's not. I swear. I
no,
swear. Just
no
listen.
way.
They listen. I
I
watched
know what you're gonna
quarterback
say. You
again.
told me this already.
Quarterback helped me. Kirk Cousins was the most hit quarterback in the league last year. Um, you just can't stay healthy that long, getting hit that much. They lost pieces on the offense all over the place. They lost Dalvin Cook. They lost Thielen. I know Thielen's getting older, but you couldn't double team JJ as much when Adam Thielen's running routes as well. And they went 13-3 with a negative point differential. I know I told you that already, but it's going to come back down to the means, and if that does, they're a 500 team, and if you're a 500 team, I guess I'll spoil my two. I got Green Bay. I think they're both going to be around 500, and if they're around 500, you never know what's going to happen. The reason I got Green Bay ahead of them, and why I don't think I'm being biased, is Green Bay this year only has 6 games against teams that made playoffs last year, and 2 of those 6 are Minnesota, who it's a division rival. You can assume you'll split. Another one is against Tampa Bay, who is not going to be anything again this year. And another one is sorry, they had another one. I want to make sure I get it
Who's
right.
this?
The last playoff team is the Giants. So they also play the Giants, who I have stepping down. So really their 2 playoff matchups are the Chiefs and the Chargers this year. Other than that, it's a pretty easy schedule for the Packers. Do I think they can go 9-8? Yes. Uh, do I see the Minnesota Vikings possibly going 9-8? Yes. I'm just going to assume that with the schedule, Green Bay wins one more game than Minnesota and finishes at 2.
See, I still have the Lions at 2, and I have the
That's
Vikings.
fair enough. This division could end up 3 ways, I think. I think all
I
3 of them could win.
honestly, I could see this division where Green Bay somehow still becomes the 1 seed just because based off the only thing they lost was Aaron Rodgers. And if Jordan Love
That's
can
what
be
I'm
an
saying.
average,
And
if Jordan Love can be
Aaron
an
Rodgers had
average
a broken
quarterback, they
thumb.
can still win games.
100%. So
Um,
I have Green Bay finishing in the 7th wild card, by the way.
That's fair. The one thing I'll say to argue for the Vikings is yes, they had a negative point differential. They still went 13-3 with the negative
100%.
point differential. So there's nothing taking that away from them.
Nope.
Yes, they lost Dalvin Cook, but I think Alexander Madison's going to do a fine job replacing him. Like I'm not too worried about that. They brought in Byron
I
Murphy
think Madison
Jr.
could be straight up better than Cook.
I could totally see a world where that is. They brought in Byron Murphy Jr. to replace Pat Pete. Byron Murphy Jr. is a better corner than Pat Pete. They drafted a rookie in the first round at 23.
Hmm.
He's gonna take those double teams away from Jefferson. I think coming into training camp, he could already be a better option than Thielen. Um, and then going to the Lions got better. No, this might be the first time in what 10 years that the Lions make the. Oh no, they made it in like 2016. First time in like 8 years the Lions make the playoffs. Like Jared Goff's a good quarterback. He's just been thrown under. He's got paid so much money, so people just think he's overpaid. But he is a completely fine quarterback.
I'm
They
happy you feel that way because I'm totally in agreement.
they
Jared Goff gets so much hate, but
I totally agree. He
he's a
just got
good
paid. He
quarterback.
got paid lots of money and isn't sure he's not the type of quarterback he's not as good of a quarterback he got paid for, but just because he got paid that much money doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback.
Exactly. It's not his fault. You're going to accept that money too if you get offered it.
No, you're not going to turn down 35 mil a year. Um,
Exactly.
the Lions got better. It's going to be really interesting to see. They brought in Montgomery, they brought in Chauncey Gardner, they brought in Emmanuel Mosley, they brought in Cam Sutton. Those are four starting players and good starter players. They're all
And they
above,
just drafted probably their starting running back in Jameer Gibbs.
and they have like Jameer Gibbs is basically him and Bijan are very similar. I obviously think
Yeah.
Bijan's a better player, but they both can run the ball and they both can catch. Like they're both Christian McCaffrey type players. Um, and I'm really excited to see how Dan Campbell's able to put these guys in his system. I think he's easily going to make it work. Um, but it's just gonna be fun. And I have the Lions making the playoffs as a wild card.
So you have the Vikings winning the
I have the
division?
Vikings at 1,
Okay.
and I
Okay.
have the
I didn't know
Lions as the 6th seed.
you have the sixth seed. Okay.
So my my I have Cowboys, Vikings, Saints, or Falcons, Niners, and then I have Rams, Lions, Eagles.
If we're gonna go in order of actual playoff standings, I got the Cowboys as the 1 seed. Um, I'll have the Niners as the 2 seed, Detroit as the 3 seed, the Falcons at the 4, the Eagles at the 5, the Seahawks at the 6, and the Packers at 7.
I'm gonna flip everything, or I'm not gonna flip everything. Sorry, I'm gonna have Niners, Cowboys, uh Vikings, Falcons. I think those are
Okay.
not gimmies, but like in that range, those are gimmies based off the
Yep.
divisions. And then I'm gonna go Eagles, Lions, Rams.
So we're really not that different. We just
We have
don't agree on the
one or
NFC
two
North.
teams that are different. That's it.
You think
We have
the
three teams
Minnesota
different. We have
Vikings
three different teams.
just two. You got the Rams and the Vikings. I got the Packers and the Seahawks.
You're right. Yep.
That's it.
But anyways, the NFC is going to be like I think you could make a case for the Giants making it. I think if Sam Howell plays good, the Commanders could even have a good season. Saints with Derek Carr, like I said, the Packers, like the NFC could go any way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing about the difference of the NFC and the AFC. I think the AFC is so stacked, where the NFC, there's just a lot of average teams, and you could make a case for a lot of them, not because any of them are great, but because a lot of them are average. Where so I think it's going to be interesting down the stretch, but that's what we
Very
got to look forward to.
very interesting. But yeah, I think with that we're gonna wrap it up. If you guys enjoy, make sure you leave a like. To never miss a weekly episode, and we will be back next week.
See ya.